Welcome, everyone, back to another episode of On the Range podcast with Hogg Tactical and Kelley Defense. I'm Mark Kelley from KelleyDefense.com, and join with me, as always, is my co-host and friend from Warhog.com, Rick Hogg. How's it going, buddy?
Man, Mark, it's going great. Just want to thank the NRA for inviting us down here to Atlanta to their annual meeting for Voices of the Second Amendment. Super excited about our next guest. We got Brett here from Taurus, and he is going to talk about some fantastic stuff.
Yeah.
If you don't, or if you guys haven't seen, swing by Make Ready. You'll see me talk about Taurus's G4 and all their stuff there. So, but anyway,
awesome,
Brett.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Appreciate you being here,
chat with you guys.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah. So, yeah, things at Taurus are going great. This show's been fantastic. I love having it here in Atlanta. Like I told you guys, I live here right now. Dude. So, I got to go to my son's baseball game last night, which was great. And then the families here walking around the show and kind of immersing themselves into our industry also. So I love doing that.
Good.
So, yeah, happy to talk about anything you guys want to. We've got a bunch of new products that we've launched early this year and here at the show. A lot of stuff going on at Taurus. We have 3 different firearm manufacturing brands with Taurus, Rossi, and Heritage. And we kind of span all over, from self-defense, pistols and revolvers. We now have hunting rifles, bolt-action rifles, lever actions, some turkey shotguns.
Wow.
But, really broad product line, so it's kind of all over the place in terms of that. But, our core business is truly self-defense pistols, and we really specialize in that kind of entry price point. I am a firm believer, but also the company's kind of motto, if you will, is that everybody deserves to be able to afford a high-quality, reliable firearm for self-defense. And so that's kind of what we hang our hat on, and that's what our R&D efforts are kind of driven towards. So, like right here, we have our new GX2 pistol, which is a replacement of the G2C, G3C family that we've sold millions of over the last few years. The GX2 is really an evolution of all of our R&D efforts. So, loosely based on the GX4 design, so it's a chassis system. But we did some different things to the grip design and some of the features that are different than the GX4. So GX4 is going to be a little more feature-packed with different configurations and sizes, as well as like if you want an optic cut, those type of things. This is really geared towards the entry-level consumer and what they want. And so you don't have an optic cut. Of course, we could do that, and we may do that in the future. But what we've learned being in this market and selling guns under that $300 retail price point is generally that entry-level shooter wants a manual thumb safety. And if a consumer doesn't, they can always work their way up to the GX4, which does not have a manual safety. So the size is kind of that perfect size. If someone's going to buy one gun, which I encourage everyone to buy more than that, but if someone's going to buy one gun and they want it to be their concealed carry, their nightstand gun, all those type of things. You have 13-round capacity magazine. It's certainly large enough of a pistol to have in your nightstand for home defense, but it's definitely easily carryable with a short grip and roughly 3.5-inch barrel. So it works really, really well for multiple purposes if you were going to just buy one gun, or maybe you can only afford to buy one gun today. Perfect platform for that.
And that grip feels great. So, when you first look at it, at least for me, so Brett just kind of brought it over, and you're kind of looking at it going, man, it looks like a single stack.
Yeah.
And that's why I kind of dropped the mag, just take a peek. It's like, no, it's a double stack. Man, when you get that grip on there, you're like,
yep.
All right.
Yeah, we put a lot of effort into those details. So how does the grip feel? And a lot of guns do feel really great in your hand today. Ergonomics are there's never been a better time to buy a gun from any manufacturer.
Yeah.
But looking at the grip texture, we do ours a little differently. Where it is aggressive, where it's functional, but for concealed carry, it's not overly aggressive. The way that we do our grip texture is actually sunk into the frame instead of protruding out of the frame.
Okay.
And so you get the same feel of useful texture where it works, but it's not to the point where it's abrasive on your skin or your clothing. And so that's why we kind of go a different route with grip texture, where every other manufacturer, it's protruding out from the substrate of the polymer. So kind of a unique way that we do things. Bringing the grip texture up into the top portion of the frame where your support hand actually has a little interface with it, as well as these kind of index points in the front.
Yep.
We take a lot of pride in that type of attention to detail, and ultimately the guns they just keep getting better and better for us, and I'm just real proud of what we've been able to do as a company there.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic, because one of the biggest things I see with students out on the range is they're buying a gun off of somebody else's recommendation, really don't size it to their hand per se. Now they've got this monster because somebody said on the interwebs, oh, you need this one.
Right.
And they can't even handle it. So,
Right.
I mean, that right there was absolutely and I've got average hands, right? We won't say small.
No, they don't look overly small to me, but
But, your average hand size, man, that's a good, that grip feels absolutely fantastic on there. So
yeah, and then the other features that we put in that don't drive the cost up. These are what we call industry standard sights. Okay, they're Glock dovetail sights. So the aftermarket is there for affordable night sights. Different options there. End sights are really a personal preference item for the gun, but people can accessorize it how they see fit and what they want, without breaking the bank. The same thing goes for magazines. So we make our own magazines in-house, keeps the costs very low on them. A retail price point on additional magazines is less than $20.
Wow.
And so, it's tough to bring a gun to market under $300 that's this high quality, but then you're going to ask someone to spend $40+ on a magazine.
Exactly.
You got to kind of have the whole system together. So I'm really proud of what we've been able to do with this GX2. It's kind of just the beginning with phasing out some of the old legacy product that nothing wrong with those guns, but things have gotten better, technologies have gotten better. So this is just a way for us to improve our product line, in which we're always trying to do.
Well, it's innovating, right? And that's one thing we kind of see across the industry.
Yeah.
Our innovation isn't the best. I mean, and we're all very cutthroaty and everything else. It's like, how do we work together? How do we get innovation out there? How do we provide the best product to that consumer? Because at the end of the day, it's a life-saving tool.
Right.
We hope they never have to use it, but God forbid they do. They've got a quality firearm there that's going to save them, their family, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, and as you guys know, like, self-defense pistols are only good if you have them on you, and for someone who can't afford a $500 or $600 gun, we still want them to be able to carry a gun and own one. And so, we kind of give the consumer that ability, and that's kind of the space that we like to live in with these type of pistols. Yeah. And I'm not saying that we're just a budget brand either. Our company scales all the way up to $1,500, big bore revolvers that people take, for bear defense and other things. So, people are willing to spend it if the product is right, and so we have that as well. But, it's just an interesting brand where we have or series of companies, I guess, that we have so many different products in different categories, and I'm really proud of the way that we've been executing kind of across the board there.
Well, it's one of those things where there's a lot of companies out there that don't even consider someone who is working with a tight budget. And if you really care about 2A and you got a big company like that and you have the ability to do it, you have to question yourself, why aren't you doing it? And it seems like you guys really are. How's the market responding to this new firearm here? It's
gone very, very well.
Good.
So we were actually scheduled to launch this gun last October. We did some rider events and started putting the guns through their paces, and we found a very minor issue in the magazine finish that we wanted to address. So we halted the launch, pushed it to January 2nd, did a little bit of redesign on the magazine coating and the chemistry that goes in there to make it a little more durable and it wouldn't flake, and solved that problem that we were seeing, and then brought it to market January 2nd. I'm really glad that we actually paused that. To me, I'm in charge of the company, so I'm in charge of the results. I'm responsible for it. But at the same time, when you're bringing a gun like this to market, it has to be right and it has to be ready for the market. We want to be shipping it to the customers, so when we do announce it, it's available then. And so all of that stuff went really well, and the consumers have really reacted very well to it. We've got a big back order for them, which I love because it kind of helps us plan production and that kind of stuff. But we really want to keep a lot of momentum behind it, and it's done really well for us.
Good.
And one other part, with the whole lever action, side of the house. We're seeing that because we just had Jeff from Excess Sights on, and they're starting to do accessories for lever actions, right?
Yes.
So we're seeing a big push within the market back to lever actions. So something that we all thought was a dead rifle, if you want to say, 10 years ago, is now starting to creep back in.
Yeah, it's been interesting. The lever action business over the last 3 years has grown substantially. We've come out with some new models under the Rossi brand. They've done very well. The R95 is a fantastic design. It's very smooth action. They're hammer forged barrels that are extremely accurate. They run really well, and they're fun to shoot. And what I think is going on there is the younger consumers that weren't previously exposed to lever action started getting into them. Guys that are my age or maybe even younger that grew up with AR-15s are now circling back to the more traditional firearm designs, which I love. And the other cool thing about lever actions, like we make them in 357 Magnum and 44 Magnum and all that. If you live in a state where you can't have an AR-15 or you have to have a stupid feature like a bullet button or something on an AR-15, I would rather have a lever action. Honestly, some of those 357s, you can have 12-round capacity in them. You can run them fast. We make different models with Picatinny rails, so you can put a red dot on them. To me, the Rossi brand in general, most of our products there are what we call 50-state legal. So there's a lot of lifestyles out there that require you to kind of drive from place to place, whether you're kind of living out of a Sprinter van and doing that kind of thing, which we saw pop up over COVID time, or even a lot of trainers. They drive from place to place, and you don't want to be driving through Chicago, but that might be the route that you got to take somewhere. All of our Rossi products are 50-state legal, where you can have them in your car. It doesn't matter. Where you don't have to think about that. So that's kind of a unique part of the Rossi brand that I like, and what we're kind of leaning into with some of these traditional product lines. It's kind of cool, and we sell a lot of those guns in California and different places like that. And it's not just people hunting, with 30-30 at this point.
Now the question of the hour is, does Rossi have? You remember on the Rifleman? When was it Chuck Connor? Was that his name? I think it was, when he had that big old handle on there.
Yeah. That's a growing trend, and that's funny because it's kind of a polarizing feature on lever actions for like the real traditional guys. They might not want the large loop, so it's like you can have just the traditional kind of small loop, which my fingers don't fit in. I don't. Or probably something more in the medium range, but for aesthetics and some of the new consumers, they like to have that real large loop on there. So it's funny, you got to kind of offer all of them, but we do. So, but it's funny how people kind of argue about that little feature on the gun.
That's all. I can remember that. If you remember the Rifleman back in the day, old black and white. So I'm sure somebody on the interweb has come across that thing. Oh man,
I got to have one of those.
Exactly.
Now those lever actions, you said that you sell a lot of them. I mean, they still flying off the shelves. I mean, pretty much.
Yeah, they're still doing very well. What we have seen. So we saw good growth in that segment 2021, 2022. So during that same time, Marlin, iconic brand for lever actions, they were transferring over to Ruger, so they weren't in full production and things like that. So there was opportunity for us to kind of grow a lot in that space. And now, Smith & Wesson has one. Ruger has the Marlin line up and running. So there's a little more competition there, but we're seeing the volume is kind of maintaining at that high level. So a lot of people are buying lever actions right now.
So are you seeing it at the pistol caliber or more the rifle caliber, or a combo of both?
Both. It kind of goes in waves. So we came out with the new R95 and 30-30 first. And then we had the 45-70 and some of the other cartridges coming later on. And the 30-30 did really well. And just as that started to kind of slow down, we came out the 45-70, and that one has never slowed down. The 45-70 is still extremely popular for that. Since then, we've come out with the 357s and 44s, and those are very popular as well. But I'd say 45-70 is probably the leader
top
there.
Caliber.
For us at least.
Yeah. What are you able to talk about any of the stuff that you have coming out next?
Yeah, we. I mean, I don't know how much detail I'll go into on some of it.
We
some of it. I mean, there's some stuff on the internet that might have leaked on a couple of ours, so you could kind of do the math. But no, we do have a new duty pistol that was was on display at the IWA show in Germany earlier this year. We don't have it here because we're not officially launching it in the U.S. yet, but later on this year that will come out. And that's an all-new design, so it's not a evolution of something we've done in the past. It's kind of purpose-driven for the U.S. consumer. Not that we're going to be like a big player in law enforcement, but it's that type of gun, and it's that grade of gun. So the product testing that goes into it, like NATO certification and making sure that it will pass all of, any of the police agency testing, whether that be over in Germany with their proof houses and their program that they do, or a lot of times in international tenders and things like that require NATO certification, and then you have to go and demonstrate. We do this a lot right now. We have a project in India where we built a factory, and we're making guns over there for India, and their testing is essentially NATO harsh environment testing, but you have to go up into the Himalayan mountains in December because it's negative 40 degrees out, and
that's a high-paying job.
Yeah. Luckily, I don't have to go do that part. But we have a team that goes over, and it's a 3-week long testing environment that they really put the guns through their paces, and we've been able to pass all of those that we've been put through, which is really encouraging. But yeah, that's kind of what we put into the design and R&D efforts today. Is we've gained this experience. Some of our old guns probably wouldn't pass some of that stuff, and so we learned and evolved as a company, and so now we do that testing up front, so we know that the guns are ready for it. We don't have to make any modifications, those type of things. So when I say we're coming out with a new duty pistol, it is truly a duty grade pistol that can withstand 30,000 rounds easily without any real modifications, or you might have to replace a recoil spring.
Yeah, I mean, those things are expected, right? Yeah. Springs are one of those deals.
Yeah.
That is that the end all be all? Oh, I got to replace a recoil spring or something like that. No.
Yeah.
Because they're expected to wear out.
Right.
I mean, now, hey, if the gun all of a sudden blows up in your face at 2 rounds, well, okay, we got some dramas, right?
Yeah.
There's a big difference.
Yeah, and that's actually part of the when you get into law enforcement and military sales, whether that's here or internationally, you learn that the gun shouldn't be expected to go through, its entire life cycle without replacing a spring or something. What you actually get into is establishing a preventative maintenance schedule, and you get out in front of it and say, okay, every 5,000 rounds, it may not feel like you need to replace the recoil thing, but do it anyways. It's a cheap part. A lot of times we provide it free of charge, and and then you don't have to worry about that being an issue at 10,000 rounds or 12,000 rounds or whatever. So we learn a lot that way, but we do for our endurance testing. We're taking these guns past 30,000 rounds. For one individual gun, the entire test cycle is closer to 300,000 rounds that we put through, and it tells you everything you want to know about the gun. And so I love being involved in that part, because we know the product that's out there, and then let's say for warranty repair, someone calls in with it. We've already experienced it, and we know what they're facing. We know how to fix it for them. These things are mechanical; they wear, and eventually you're going to do that kind of stuff, and so it's good to know up front what you're getting into and what how you're going to help people when they face it.
Yeah.
Awesome, man.
Yeah. Well, really appreciate you coming on, and I know Rick's thankful for all the stuff that you've done with Panteo, because they're helping us with Make Ready for the show, and just a good partner. So make sure you guys go out there and check out their stuff on that, and anytime you want to come back, feel free to come back. We do a remote studio. We're not always on location, but talk about some more stuff and more guns.
Yeah, later this year we got some new guns. Let's maybe schedule something for that, and we can kind of prep for the launch that way. That'd be awesome.
Yeah,
cool.
Great. Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it, Brett. For the rest of you guys, don't forget, train hard, stay safe, and we'll see you on the range.